So there are always more rumors than I could ever fit into an episode. This is always a thing. Okay, nerds, we have a show. We have actually a pretty decent show. It's a fair amount of it, honestly, the majority of it doesn't exist inside of the syndicated episodes. So if you are joining me for the first time and you have found me on one of the syndicated outlets like the Big Show Entertainment Network or Nerdy Legion or whatever, welcome, nerds. For those of you that watch every episode, I thank you very much. And for those of you that find me on the socials and then eventually decide to join me here, again, welcome, nerds. Today's episode is pretty full, so we're just going to hit the intro. First things first, no real housekeeping to speak of. Just a reminder to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can keep up to date on your pop culture nerd news as in depth as freaking possible. I mean, I don't specialize. I'm pretty general, hence the name of the channel. But you will stay much more well informed than most if you stick around and ring the bell. So again, subscriptions are a beautiful thing, and they don't cost you anything. That being said, no real sponsor for today's episode, just my pretty little face, and we're going to jump headfirst into the music section. In music news for today, we are talking first about Rammstein. Remember, we got the announcement a few months ago, I believe it was October, might have been November, but I think it was October, that Rammstein, oh yeah, it's in the notes. Hey, look at that, I actually put it in the notes. Rammstein was in the studio during COVID. This is not a surprise. Like, all of the news outlets are like, wait, are we getting a new Rammstein record? Yeah, they told us they were in the studio, and now they've told us that they're done recording. There is still no release date yet for this new, as yet untitled album. We will definitely be keeping tabs on this because Rammstein. That being said, we're moving on. The next piece of follow-up news that we're talking about is that Jared Dines and Howard Jones project. So the real quick TLDR about who those people are: Jared Dines is a music YouTuber. He's pretty prolific. He's worked with a lot of big names in the real world music industry, not just the YouTubers. And now one of the biggest names is Howard Jones. Howard Jones, again, for those that don't know, is the once and former lead vocalist for Killswitch Engage. He now fronts a band called Light the Torch. Light the Torch did go by a different name up until very recently, up until the most recent album, I guess. I can't think of what it was because that's not what they go by anymore. But Light the Torch is pretty freaking great. He actually does make a cameo on the most recent Killswitch Engage record. So, Signal Fire is the name of that song. Sorry, it took me a second. But yeah, go check that out because that is some of the best heavy music that has come out in the last couple years. It's pretty freaking great. The reason we're talking about this, again, this is a follow-up. This is something we've been keeping tabs on. Jared Dines and Howard Jones met up on tour. Dines was standing in for Matt Heafy on guitar with Trivium for a little while, and then I think even for a hot second on vocals because Heafy had family issues he had to take care of and had to leave the tour, but the band still had a commitment. So Dines stepped in, was like, I'm your dude. So they met Howard on that tour because Light the Torch was opening for Trivium, and Howard, being one of Dines' idols, as well he freaking should be, they struck up conversation, and eventually it got to the point where Howard was like, hey, we should maybe do a project together sometime. This is that project. It's finally happening. It's finally coming to the point where they can release it. So it now has a name, which is the big thing. The name for the project is SION, SION, not like the car, but like a different thing. And then is set to release their first single from this project on March 11th. Still no release date or album title for the actual whole album, but hey, man, baby steps. That's what we're getting. That's what we're doing. I honestly, if memory serves, this isn't in the notes because I don't usually do summaries for like the stuff leading up to this, but if memory serves, they're only going to be doing like 7 tracks, maybe 8 tracks total, and that might even be a high estimate. If part of me wants to say it's only going to be like 5 or 6 tracks, so it's effectively going to be an EP, but still going to be pretty freaking awesome by the way that both Jones and Dines are describing it. So that is what we have for follow-ups. We have one piece in new news to address, and that is Steve Von Till. Steve Von Till, one of the guitar players and vocalists for the amazing post-metal band Neurosis. I hate that subgenre, but that is how most people know them. So I hate most subgenres. It's metal, man. It's good music. That's the biggest thing. So Steve Von Till, again, one of the vocalists for Neurosis, towards the beginning of COVID, I believe, he put out a record that was just a solo record of his, and actually was kind of a bit of a departure because there was very little, if any, guitar work on that record. So this year, he is releasing another solo record, which, again, is not unusual for Steve Von Till. He's been doing this for pretty much as long as Neurosis has been around, which has been a long damn time, 30-something years, obviously. So this new project is called A Deep Voiceless Wilderness. It's a play on the title of the other record. I, for whatever reason, didn't put the name of the other record in here, but yeah, it's basically the music, the instrumentation from the record that came out last year, just minus his vocals. So all of the atmospheric bits and all of the really layered stuff that he likes to do on his solo records is now going to be that, just sans vocals. The other thing that Von Till is putting out is another adaptation of a previous work. This time, he put out a book of poems called Harvestman, 23 Untitled Poems and Collected Lyrics. He's putting that to vinyl, or to press somehow. So we will be getting an audio version of his poetry book. It's a spoken word book. This actually is the spoken word book. Oh no, I'm sorry. The poetry book did not release through anything that Neurosis owns, but both his solo project as well as the Harvestman project are going to be out on Neurot Records, which is what Neurosis, the record label that they started. This is the Deep Voiceless Wilderness is going to be out April 30th, and I did not see a release date for the Harvestman project, but also presumably available through Neurot. That is our music section. Let's talk gaming and tech. Not the biggest gaming and tech section we've ever had. Honestly, a good chunk of this episode is going to be in comic books, believe it or not. But gaming and tech, we do have a couple of things. First up, we're talking about Twitter, so more on the tech side of things. Twitter is starting out and hopes to roll out in full, in mass, I guess, a new thing called Super Follows by the end of the year. Also, by the end of 2023, they're hoping that this, along with a couple other things that they've announced, but this is kind of the big kind of flagship thing that they're rolling out. They're hoping to double their intake of revenue by the end of 2023. So they're hinging a whole lot on the fact that they're basically stealing other people's functionality from other social medias. Basically, what Super Follows are is their version of a subscription service. So the really interesting part about this, and kind of akin to Patreon, is that on a Super Follow, the creator determines what the cost is. So if I want to start a Super Follow channel, presumably, it's still like the details are really kind of vague and weird spots, but from what it sounds like, if you want to start a Twitter account and do Super Follows, and you want the Super Follow cost to be $1 a month, then that is totally within your ability to do. There is no word yet what Twitter is going to take as far as a percentage goes for the Super Follows, but obviously they're going to be taking something if they want to double their revenue by 2023. As more on this develops, we will be keeping tabs for sure, because it's very interesting, and a lot of people are kind of speaking ill of this move, but like, everyone is on Twitter, so they're just making it more easy for those who are on Twitter to not also have other social media accounts, other subscription services. You don't need a Subscribe Star. You don't need honestly, let's be real, an OnlyFans account. You just need a Twitter account anymore, and you can do whatever you want behind that paywall. And again, set the level of the paywall. No word yet either if there's going to be tiered options. So like you'll be able to have a super follow that is $1 a month, and then another super follow that's $5 a month, or if those have to be two separate accounts. All of that, again, is still pretty vague, but as it becomes more clear, we will be talking about it. So that is what we have for Twitter. We're moving next into Alien. This is a video game, believe it or not. We are getting a new game called Fireteam. I didn't write down the... because I've never heard of the development company, so that's why I didn't put it down. I mean, it is what it is. If you want to follow the link in the description, then you can go watch the trailer, and it looks pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. Though, I am going to kind of step back a little bit from that statement, because this kind of seems more like zombie style and less like xenomorph style. I read one outlet talking about how it's kind of like Left 4 Dead, only with xenomorphs, and I feel like that's a pretty apt description based on the trailer we got. But that's not exactly how I think of xenomorphs. They're a little bit more menacing, and they're much more hard to kill. So, like, I don't know. Part of me is like, yeah, let's mow down a bunch of xenomorphs. But part of me is like, but that's not the way the franchise was built. That's not the Gibson book, the Gibson third movie that never was. That's not the first movie that set up that established that. That's not even the Ridley Scott most recent Covenant movie. It's just, I don't know. I'm very torn about this, so I'm going to hand this one off to you guys. How do you feel about Fireteam? This is more in line with the second and third movie that we actually got. So just really interested to see what the fan reactions are to this and where, if any, the divide is. So yeah, all of that being said, that's all we've got for gaming and tech, guys. Now we're into comic books and books. So we do have a follow-up real quick about San Diego Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con, a.k.a. Comic-Con International, a.k.a. SDCC, a.k.a. the biggest, but not the OG, just the biggest Comic-Con in the country, has made the official announcement that the spring convention, the regular convention, is going to remain digital this year. Much like last year, it's going to be a similar event. But they also are going to make an attempt at a second event this year. The second event will be in November and is going to be IRL. That is correct. They're going to actually let people come down to the convention center and see each other face to face. For what San Diego Comic-Con is saying is going to be a bit smaller of a convention, but still is going to be something for the community to finally go experience together after a year of garbage. So that is pretty freaking cool. That is all we really have for follow-ups. Next is a piece that kind of is a follow-up, but more because we've been talking about it in TV streaming. It's the Orville. The Orville is getting a very interesting prequel comic. It's not a prequel to the series that we have. It is simply a prequel to the final episode of season 2. So somewhere between the final, the penultimate episode and the ultimate episode, that's where this comic book technically lies. It is going to be written by David A. Goodman, who's producer on Futurama, Star Trek Enterprise. The artist is going to be David Cabeza, who's done previous Orville books, and colorist is Michael, I'm not going to be able not going to be able to pronounce his last name, Atiyeh. They're all coming back to do this. It's going to be digital first. The story it's kind of like an alternate history version from what I could kind of gather together. Sounds pretty interesting though. Check it out. The release date I did not write down, so I'll put it on the screen because I'm a winner. So yeah, it should be showing somewhere on your screen right about now. That is all we have for that. Next, we're talking about the official rollout for DC Infinite Frontier. We mentioned this briefly a couple episodes ago, talking about the future after the alternate future book that's going on right now that my brain just totally blanked out. Future State, there we go. So the big story arc that is going to be DC universe spanning, so going across all of the multiverse effectively, is going to be called Infinite Frontier. We know this, but issue number 0 hit shelves yesterday, so you should be able to go get that. A real brief synopsis for the series is as follows. Alan Scott, the Green Lantern from Justice Society of America, has noticed some of his allies are still missing in action, and he's determined to find them. There are others, though, that would rather remain hidden than explain themselves, like Roy Harper, aka Arsenal, a man who should be dead now, is not. Plus, what does all this mean to the DCU's place in the multiverse? On opposite sides of a dimensional divide, both Barry Allen and President Superman ponder this question. Not to mention the dark side of it all, or a team of multiversal heroes called Justice Incarnate. So, very interested to see what happens with this. It's going to be a 6-book arc, so that seems very small for such a large, presumably large event in the DCU. But as we get, if anything major develops from this, which I'm sure there will, we will touch on it here on the show. That being said, that's all we've got. Next, we're talking about a new Overwatch anthology, actually. So this is actually not exactly new. This is what they would bill on the televisions as new and improved, which is kind of an oxymoron, because if it's new, how is it improved? And if it's improved, that means it's not new, right? Because it existed before, so you had something to improve upon. Either way. So Overwatch Anthology, this is going to be called the Expanded Edition. It's not going to be Volume 2 because presumably there wasn't enough additional material to create a whole new volume. This is going to be a rehash of the first Overwatch Anthology book, just with 50 new pages of content, as well as the inclusion of the digital issues that have come out since the anthology was released, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff with the team that creates the game. So very awesome. It's going to be $25, and here's a really interesting thing. They're going to be releasing it in actual comic book stores first. Weird, right? November 10th is when it's going to be at your favorite comic book shop, and then November 29th is when it's going to hit things like Barnes & Noble and such. So that is all we have on that one. Our final piece in comic books has to do with aliens. That's right, we're talking more xenomorphs, baby. So a new Marvel series, which we all knew was coming, has been officially announced. The writer on this is going to be Philip Kennedy Johnson, and artist is going to be Salvador Larroca. I know, I rolled my R's because I think that's how you're supposed to say that name. Anyway, it's going to be releasing March 24th. I'm super, super hype about this because I want to see what Marvel can add, if anything, to the overall mythology of the Xenomorphs. But that is our comic book section, guys. Now, let's get into the TV streaming of it all. We only have one thing to talk about here, and it's really kind of cool, actually. So Netflix, being Netflix, is doing a thing, again, with part of our childhood. Terminator is coming to Netflix in a very interesting way. We're getting an animated Terminator series. No word yet on any of the voice actors or anything like that. We do know who the showrunner is going to be, though. That's Mattson Tomlin, who wrote The Batman with Matt Reeves, as well as the movie Project Power on Netflix. He's going to be the showrunner for this, which could be kind of freaking amazing because both of those things, presumably, because the Batman hasn't released yet, but both of those things seem to be pretty awesome. Super big fan of the Project Power, rather. Wow, that was not the right word. Big super fan of Project Power. I'm super hype and excited about the new Batman movie, so hopefully all of that goodwill can translate over to this Terminator series, because Terminator has kind of been hit and miss when it comes to series. Really liked Sarah Connor Chronicles, but a lot of the fans kind of had some qualms with it, so yeah, definitely going to see what happens there. That's all we have, though, in TV streaming. It was a slow week for TV streaming. Movies is a little bit beefier. Not by movies' regular standards, but by today's episode standards. So the first thing we're talking about is actually something that I had intended on putting in last episode, but for whatever reason skipped it in the notes, so I had to transfer it over to this episode. We have a new David Fincher movie in the works called The Killer. Movie nerds, you know why I'm putting this in here, because David Fincher is a god. As far as movie making goes, David Fincher is kind of the last of a dying breed. Well, one of the last of a dying breed, because I would put like Edgar Wright up here as well. To a lesser extent, probably Ridley Scott is kind of in the similar area. Steven Spielberg is kind of in this kind of echelon. I don't know. Steven Spielberg is not quite as artsy as he once was. So I don't know. Either way, Fincher is amazing. Fincher's making a new movie. That's all you should need. But we also have Michael Fassbender in talks to take the lead role for this movie. I didn't write down the synopsis. I don't know if a synopsis is actually 100% available yet, but the screenwriter is going to be Andrew Kevin Walker. I don't remember why that's relevant. I'll have to do a little bit more research and we'll follow up on this. But yeah, Fincher's new movie is called The Killer. It's going to be out sometime, probably 2023, it sounds like. But we'll keep tabs on it because I love Fincher, and we're moving on. Next, we're talking about Superman. We did get a really interesting announcement over the last couple of days that Ta-Nehisi Coates is going to be the screenwriter for the J.J. Abrams version of Superman. Now, a lot of the, again, it's really hard to quantize this without using incorrect vocabulary, but because most people know it as such, a lot of the like Gamergate and ComicGate news outlets, the people that are more conservative-minded. I don't think any of these terms are 100% accurate, but it'll paint the picture of the kind of sources that are painting it as such. So a lot of those places are saying, oh, that's it, Superman's going to be black because Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing it. Well, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote the actual Superman books as well for a brief period of time, a couple of times, if memory serves. I'm pretty sure he has 2 runs, both of which are pretty short, but not like two issues. They're like an 8-issue arc and a 6-issue arc. Again, my memory's a little fuzzy on that, but either way, Ta-Nehisi Coates has written mainline Superman before, so the fact that Abrams is bringing him in, yes, definitely does signal the fact that Abrams' version of Superman is going to be much more woke, if to coin a phrase, but not necessarily indicative of a black Superman. So we're not seeing a race-swapped Superman just yet. That has not been confirmed. There's every reason to believe that that is a possibility at this point, especially considering Coates' political leanings and such. But it's not confirmed, so we can't do that. We just know Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing it. I'm rambling. We're moving on. Our final piece for movies actually has me pretty excited about the future for a Netflix series, and that is Wu Assassins. Wu Assassins, which has not been canceled, just has not been picked up for a second season yet, is getting a movie instead. So it seems that the entire cast is coming back for a movie. It's going to be called Fistful of Vengeance, which, I mean, let's get a little bit more stereotypical with our subtitles, shall we? But it's going to be the next installment of the series. It is going to be a legitimate feature-length movie. It's going straight to Netflix, so, I mean, you just kind of, that is the way of things right now, so whatever. But hopefully this means if this movie does well, then we will see a second season from my boy Louis Tan, who is playing Louis Tan is going to be... He's in Mortal Kombat, and my brain just kind of farted which character he's going to be playing. Ludi Lin is Liu Kang. Louis Tan is playing Cole Young. That's right. So yeah, Louis Tan is in this. There's actually one other actor in this that was in the Mortal Kombat movie as well. I can't think of who it is off the top of my head because I didn't put it in the notes because I take amazing notes. And we're moving on. That's the end of this section. Now, the real reason anybody is listening or watching this is the rumor mill. We're talking rumors, baby. And again, just kind of because this has kind of been an evolving portion of the show, I'm going to give you guys a real brief kind of refresh on the purpose of me covering rumors. So there are always more rumors than I could ever fit into an episode. This is always a thing. There are a couple of things that kind of quantify why I put a rumor into an episode. First, if I think there is some sort of validity to it, which we address for every rumor, the amount of validity I think exists behind most of these rumors. Also, if it's a fun thought experiment, if it brings up a good question about a certain IP, then I'll bring it up, then I'll talk about it as well. Or if it is such a prevalent rumor in the community that it's hard, that you can't ignore it, that also will dictate a rumor making it into the episode. So, like I also said, we do like to talk about the validity, how valid I think certain rumors are. Each rumor is, actually. Normally, too, we try and do confirmations and refutations in this section. So if a rumor gets confirmed, then I will likely put it in the section to which it pertains directly, and then also in the refutations or confirmations. Same thing if somebody shoots it down undeniably. So, that being said, I'm going to address a glaring omission in today's episode for refutations, and that is the Amber Heard situation over at DC. There is a bunch of outlets saying that the rumor that Amber Heard has been fired has been debunked, and then when you check their sources, the source is not certain. So there is a possibility that the Amber Heard firing is not legit, but we covered that as a rumor, so already there is a possibility that it's not legit. And I'm pretty sure I gave it a lowish percentage of being valid as well. So we're not talking about that anymore until something new develops there. That being said, and something new is not the non-refutation that we got in the news over the last couple of days. So, what we are talking about, starting things off for this section, is Captain Britain. Now, we've been kind of keeping tabs on all of the rumored behind-the-scenes happenings with Henry Cavill and the Superman situation. Well, his his manager, Danny Garcia, has been pretty vague with her vocabulary, but has been trying to drop hints as of late that something huge is coming, and it's assumed that that is going to be for Henry Cavill. She has not said Henry Cavill's name explicitly, but her coming out and saying such things, that something big is down the road for one of her big clients, then presumably one of her biggest clients that we don't know the future for is Henry Cavill. The other one is her ex-husband, The Rock. And we already know what he's doing for the next probably 10 years. So Henry Cavill, this has led a lot of insiders to start with rumors saying that Henry Cavill, not only are they saying that he has been in direct talks with Marvel, but those talks are specifically for Captain Britain. That is right. Captain Britain could be going to Henry Cavill, which is like, duh. Unless you're going to put him as Captain America, because he's already played one big American superhero, Superman, so having him as Captain America wouldn't exactly be out of the question, but he's not really the best look. I mean, he looks great, but he's not really that guy. He's Captain Britain for sure. So validity behind this is kind of rumor based on rumor, and rumor based on vague droppings that may or may not actually have to do with Henry Cavill. There's no way we can go over 50% likelihood that this is valid. And we've kind of gone over the things that kind of play to and against this. I think, honestly, 50% validity is a pretty good place to put this. It's almost as equally going to happen as not going to happen. So that's what we have there. Next, we're going to be talking. This is a rare occurrence. We're talking a technology rumor. It's not the first time, but it is definitely not something we have very frequently. iPhone 13, the new big rumor around this one says that we're going to have a terabyte of storage on board. That's insane. a terabyte? Isn't most of their stuff on the iCloud anyway? Like, why do you need a terabyte? Whatever. The rumor says it. There is valid reasons to believe this, not the least of which being that the iPhone 12 had a half a terabyte, 512 gigs on the iPhone 12. So it's a pretty logical assumption that the next step is to double it. So, yeah, there's a number of tech sources that are saying that you should expect this in the next phone. It has not yet been announced by Apple, so that's why it still quantifies as a rumor. Validity that this is a legit 95%. Honestly, I will be surprised if they don't have a terabyte in the next iPhone. Moving on, we're talking next about Men in Black 5. That's right, 5. This time, apparently, if you want to believe the rumor, not only is it in production, in very, very early stages of production, but also they're talking to Will Smith to reprise his role for the movie. There's kind of two rumors here, but they're both so intrinsically linked. We're going to just quantify it with one validity percentage. After the last movie and after the kind of lackluster results of 3 as well, which had Will Smith in it, granted that still did pretty okay in the theaters. I can't get behind this too much. I will give it about a 40% just because like that would be the only way to salvage this franchise. I just don't really think they're trying to salvage it yet. Eventually, sure, but right now, probably not. So 40% likelihood that this is legit. Our next piece has to do with Tron. There's a new rumor putting Robert Downey Jr. as joining Jared Leto for the next Tron movie. Not Daft Punk, sadly. Also, there was another rumor addressing the Robert Downey Jr. involvement, only it's with a different Tron franchise, or a different Tron outing, I guess is probably, because that rumor says that there are multiple Tron projects in the works, not the least of which an animated series, which I think we got wind of a couple months ago anyway, but all of that being said, I know. Where this one potentially is going to happen, maybe as something else. I don't think it's going to be in the Jared Leto movie, like most of the rumors are saying. I honestly would be surprised if it does happen anywhere else too. So 25% likelihood for that. Our next rumor, I got to play beat the battery now. Our next rumor has to do with Jessica Jones. New rumor that Jessica Jones is going to be surfacing on Hulu in her own series. Seems slightly more likely than it once did, so we'll bump this up to about 30%, but that's as much validity as I can give it because Feige is Feige, and we're moving on. Our final rumor is another rumor about 11, the series. So reportedly, Millie Bobby Brown has renegotiated her contract. As part of that renegotiation, it involves a spin-off series specifically for her from Stranger Things. This is possible. This is very possible. 50% likelihood that this is a thing. That is the end of the rumor mill, and that's the end of the episode. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If though you want to go deeper in the conversation, jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. If you're falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up, then you can click or tap the boxes that are showing up right there to the left of my face, or to the right of my face rather. I'm gonna head out now. Before I go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.